I'm joined by David Byrne, and David, I have to tell you, I don't get nervous often anymore, but I did get nervous for Bruce Springsteen, and this is the same feeling.
Well, I'm not going to jump or do anything. No sudden movements.
I was hoping you would jump.
No
that was my first
movements.
question. Will you jump? So that's a no.
Yeah,
will not
no.
jump.
I'm not going to
David has kindly programmed a double feature for us, a very interesting double feature, starting with the Powell Pressburger written and directed 1946 film, A Matter of Life and Death. And then we'll get to Wim Wenders' Wings of Desire. First of all, David, who I feel like needs no introduction, but I have to give people a little one. You are quite simply one of the most influential musicians of your era. Singer, songwriter, frontman for the Talking Heads, and then on your own, an enormously talented musician who's collaborated with some of the best people in this business. You also have won an Oscar for Best Original Score for the 1987 film The Last Emperor, and an Academy Award nominee for Best Song for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And you've scored 5 or 6 movies and directed one, True Stories, 1986. I take it movies have been an important part of your artistic life.
They have. There was a moment when I went to art school after high school. Right?
Where'd you go to art school?
In Rhode Island. It's called Rhode Island School of Design. And these weren't classes, but there were certain evenings where they would show kind of art films and foreign films and things like that. And all the students could go. You didn't have to be a film major or anything like that. So I got to see all these films that I never saw when I was growing up in suburban Baltimore. I didn't even know these films existed. Like a Fellini movie one night. And I remember thinking, that was maybe the strangest thing I've ever seen, and I can't make any sense of it whatsoever.
But you were...
I was just mesmerized, totally mesmerized.
Kept thinking about it. Kept
thinking about it. Yeah. I remember seeing the same movie decades later and going, well, now that I see it now, it makes total sense. It's surreal, but the story, every one of these images makes total sense. I think there might have been Godard movies and some other kinds of things.
I'm sure that was the case.
So these kind of things were kind of blowing my mind and making me realize that, film can be a lot broader than what I saw in suburban Baltimore.
So why'd you pick these 2 movies? Let's start with A Matter of Life and Death. What draws you to that? It's
slightly experimental in certain kinds of ways, but it's also very romantic and sentimental at the same time. It's an odd combination of being kind of radical in the way that it's done and the structure and visuals, but then the story that's being told is very, very heart-wrenching and sentimental. There's a pilot who gets shot down over the English Channel.
He has no parachute, and he's talking to this woman over the radio first.
He's talking to this woman, and you can just tell there's a connection.
This is such nonsense.
No, it's not. It's the best sense I ever heard. I was lucky to get you, June. Can't be helped about the parachute. I have my wings soon anyway, big white ones. I hope they haven't got all modern. I'd hate to have a prop instead of wings.
You think he's going to die.
Yeah.
He doesn't die. He was supposed to die, but he didn't die. He washes up. She finds it. And they fall in love, of course.
Of course.
And then the clerical folks from heaven come and go.
The bureaucracy of heaven gets involved.
Yeah, which is great. Heaven is a bureaucracy.
Yeah.
That's not the only movie to do that, but heaven is a bureaucracy, and they go, whoa, we've had a little clerical error here. You're not supposed to be alive, and you're definitely not supposed to have fallen in love with this woman, because that really upsets everything.
Right, that's right.
He's got to argue that, no, wait a minute, you can't take this away from me now.
Right. And then it turns into an experimental courtroom drama. Right?
Yes,
that's right.
The courtroom is in heaven.
That's right. It's good.
Yes, and it's just like you go to heaven and it's like millions of people, the old philosophers and the old soldiers and everyone historically who's ever existed. They're all there.
All there.
Listening.
David, great stuff. We'll talk more after the film. Here it is, from 1946, written and directed by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger. David Niven and Kim Hunter lead the cast of A Matter of Life and Death. I am back with David Byrne. He programmed tonight's double feature, A Matter of Life and Death, you just saw, with David Niven, Kim Hunter, and Marius Goering as Conductor 71. So wonderfully memorable. Roger Livesey also as as Dr. Frank.
And who did you spot in heaven?
Richard Attenborough. Yeah, I think he's 23 years old, but he's there in that first scene in heaven when they're waiting for the pilots to come in who've been killed in battle. And I'm like, God, that guy looks like Richard Attenborough. And I looked it up, and sure enough, it's Richard Attenborough. I think he's got one line.
It's heaven, isn't it?
He'd done a little acting, then of course went on to a great career as an actor and as a filmmaker. You can guess how it's going to end, that somehow this has to work out for them. Otherwise it becomes a very different kind of movie experience.
Could be a very short movie too.
That's right, yeah. And I suppose if you're feeling cynical, you could describe that as corny. As you said, some friends of yours have not liked it because it's too corny. I always think that if, corniness is executed effectively, then it's executed effectively and it's wonderful, right?
Yes. I think people might be surprised that I really like a movie this sentimental, this romantic.
Are you a sentimental person?
I don't know if I am that sentimental in real life.
Yeah.
But in the world of movies, yeah, I totally go with it. Especially when the world that it creates is something very unusual and exciting and evocative.
Matter of Life and Death and the film you picked next, made just over 40 years later in 1987, the Wim Wenders film Wings of Desire, both represents, angelic intervention, but this is not in any way a typical or a storybook portrayal of angels.
Yes, the angels are not kind of typically angelic. They're kind of bureaucratic and sometimes foolish and a little bit silly and petty.
Definitely, right. Petty, that's right.
All those kinds of
protecting their turf.
Yes,
right?
All those kinds of things. They've kind of worked that into it, which is, I think that it's just wonderful.
Yeah, we've hardly mentioned David Niven and Kim Hunter, but a lot of the film's success, I think, is the star power that the two of these differently trained actors, one very English, David Niven, and Kim Hunter, a product of the Actors Studio in the States.
Yeah, which would be an odd combination. Very different acting styles.
But you have no trouble believing that they fell in love on the phone, essentially, on the radio, but on the phone. Yeah. Do you automatically think of this with the next film you program? The Wim Wenders, Wings of Desire from '87? Like they're...
No. I submitted a long list of movies that I thought, let me give you like 10 or a dozen movies and choose two that, you think would be good to talk about. And when I looked at the choice, I realized, oh my goodness.
Perfect.
These movies are perfect double feature. There's so many similarities. Not in exactly the story, but both of them have elements of color and black and white.
Yep.
A little bit of Wizard of Oz thing going on there. And heaven, in this case, heaven is black and white, the movie we've just seen.
In Matter of Life and Death, heaven is black and white. And,
yes.
And earth is in color, yeah.
Which that's telling you something. It's
right.
telling you that our lives that we live here are in Technicolor.
That's right. David, thanks very much. This was great.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let's do it again, because coming up next is the back half of our David Byrne double feature, Wings of Desire from 1987, directed by Wim Wenders and starring the great Bruno Ganz, is next on TCM.
Next on TCM, Wings of Desire. Then Never Open That Door. And later, If I Should Die Before I Wake. TCM's the answer to your prayers tonight.